One of the most shocking events in medieval England was when the heir to the throne, Edward V, and his brother Richard, the Duke of York, disappeared inside the Tower of London. The pair were the sons of King Edward IV, who recently died rather suddenly, and they were supposed to be awaiting the coronation of Edward V when they seemingly disappeared from sight. Richard III, their uncle, who had been appointed as the Lord Protector, then launched a tirade against the two boys, and he denounced them as both illegitimate. This was then passed through Parliament, and Richard, who had previously been the Duke of Gloucester, was declared the King, and King Richard III. Many across England deemed him as a usurper, and much debate and mystery emerged around the disappearance of the princes in the Tower, especially when over 100 years later, a box of bones containing the remains of the two children was found under a staircase inside the White Tower, the oldest part of the Tower of London. But there was one man who was heavily linked to the murder of the two boys, and who was later executed for treason. Join us today as we look at the brutal execution of Sir James Tyrrell, and remember to support our channel. Please make sure to subscribe. James Tyrrell was born in 1445, and he was the eldest son of William Tyrrell of Suffolk and Margaret Darcy. His grandfather was Sir John Tyrrell, who was a knight of the Shire for Essex, and also the Speaker of the House of Commons. He was also the treasurer of the royal household, and served in Henry VI's council in France. However, James's father was executed on the 23rd of February 1462 on Tower Hill, and was beheaded by axe, along with Sir Thomas Tuddenham and John Montgomery. They had all been implicated in a plot to murder and assassinate King Edward IV during the Wars of the Roses, and John de Vere, the 12th Earl of Oxford, along with his heir, were later implicated in this. It's not known if trials took place, or whether James Tyrrell's father had actually been involved in a plot. He was not attainted, and because of this, his eldest son became the heir to his lands, and custody of these were granted to Cecily Neville, who then later sold them to James's mother. During the Wars of the Roses, England was gripped by the dynastic brutal battles and civil war in which the House of York and the House of Lancaster fought for the English throne. James Tyrrell fought for the Yorkist dynasty during the Battle of Tewkesbury on the 4th of May 1471, and after fighting valiantly, he was knighted on the battlefield by King Edward IV. Following this, he then became a close attendant and member of household of the future Richard III, the Duke of Gloucester, the brother of the king. However, as mentioned, following the Princes in the Tower mystery, Richard III seized the throne, and with this Tyrrell went with him in his promotion, and was then made the High Sheriff of Cornwall in 1484. This meant he was now responsible for law and administration in Cornwall, and then in 1485 he went to France. However, following Henry Tudor gathering a Lancastrian uprising, Tyrrell was nowhere to be seen. One of the biggest suspects involved in the whole disappearance of the princes is Sir James Tyrrell. He was very close and loyal with Richard III, and it's believed that Richard would not have killed the boys himself, but he would have ordered a close friend and a trusted loyal attendant to do the deed for him. With this, many images have emerged, showing a man in armour as the one who smothered the boys in their sleep. Many historians believe that Sir James Tyrrell was the man who received the order to kill the boys, as having them alive for Richard III was dangerous, as many would question his legitimacy on the throne, but with the princes dead, this would not happen. It's believed Tyrrell would have had close access to the Tower of London as well, and he would have also been the one who killed the boys. The remains were then probably hidden, and may have been found as mentioned, and today these remains specifically have been interred inside of Westminster Abbey. But with this, if it was true, it would make Sir James Tyrrell the man who killed the king-to-be, and change the face of English history forever, and the line of succession also, and his impact could still be felt today. Richard III went to battle with Henry Tudor on the 22nd of August 1485, and during this Henry Tudor claimed a shocking victory against Richard, and the king was slain on the battlefield, fighting in the thickest presses of his enemies. Richard III was then taken to Leicester, and his body was displayed at the Church of the Greyfriars, but Henry Tudor was crowned on the battlefield. But Tyrrell was nowhere to be seen on the battlefield, and when he got back to England in 1486, he was pardoned by King Henry VII on the 16th of June, and was then pardoned again a month later. It's believed this second pardon may have been for his involvement in the Princes in the Tower mystery, but then he was reappointed as the governor of a French town which the English had control of. He stayed in this position for around 15 years, but in 1501 he gave his support to Edmund de la Pole, the 3rd Duke of Suffolk, who was a leading Yorkist claimant to the English throne, and despite him living in exile, Henry VII was very fearful of him. With this, Henry VII sent a group of men to arrest Sir James Tyrrell on account of treason, and he and his son were both arrested. He was brought back to England and was charged with treason. It was said following his execution in an account written by Sir Thomas More that during his interrogation and examination that Sir James Tyrrell did confess to the murders of King Edward V and his brother inside the Tower of London. More also said that he implicated John Dighton as a perpetrator and that Dighton backed up Tyrrell's accounts of the events. But this confession has been lost to time and remains a record that is missing if this is the case. More was writing a history of Richard III which was rather scathing and pleased his Tudor masters, who hated Richard III and viewed him as the enemy. Following this, Sir James Tyrrell was brought to trial and was found guilty of treason on the 2nd of May 1502 at the Guildhall in London. 4 days later, on the 6th of May, he was taken from the Tower of London, where he had been held, and was taken to Tower Hill for his execution on the public beheading spot. It was believed that when he arrived on the scaffold, he was not allowed to make a final speech to anyone in the crowd. With this, he was quickly beheaded by the axeman, and then his body was taken from Tower Hill and was then hastily buried in the Church of the Austin Friars in London. Sir James Tyrrell, if true, was the man who is strongly linked to the murders of the princes in the Tower. If this is true, and he did do this, then it makes him a regicide and a king killer, and his involvement changed English history forever. It's believed that he was very loyal to Richard III, and the fact he received promotions when he came onto the throne backs this up, and it's possible and very probable that he would have followed the orders to have killed the boys. He is considered a man who descended from a traitor, and he is viewed as one of the most evil villains of the medieval period. But one thing that would redeem him and his legacy is if the Princes in the Tower mystery was once and for all solved in the future. Thanks for watching. To support our channel, please make sure to subscribe, and once again, thank you so much for watching.